Hello and welcome to another episode of A Man in a Kimono After Hours. Well, as you can tell, today I'm wearing my denim kimono and underneath is my trusty Nagajuban, my obi. Let's see if you can see the back. My very sloppy knot. I don't think it's that pretty, but it's functional. Anyway, I hope you will enjoy today's episode. Right then, let's get on to the review portion of this so-called review show. Today I'm drinking this Asahi rich malt. I already poured it into a glass, so let's have a taste. That's a nice beer. It's, I guess, it should be a Pilsner, but it's got a bit of that roasted flavor, that kind of flavor that I would associate with a darker beer. Yeah, it's quite full, you know, for a Pilsner it's quite full, if that makes sense. It's a bit more, what do we say? It's maybe not quite as refreshing as a usual Pilsner. It's not what I would call a festival beer. It's nice. Anyway, as a snack I've got this karubi. Well, in Japanese it's karubi, but kalbi, I guess, in English. It's a limited edition, it says right here. Yeah, Kikangente limited edition of Ajinomoto. I think this is pronounced Marudori, whole rooster, and Garasupu Aji. So who knows, this may be good, this may be bad, we'll find out together. Right, itadakimasu. So this likely won't come as a surprise to anyone, but it tastes like chicken soup, I guess. A chicken bouillon maybe? Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I would prefer to have the flavor be just a bit more pronounced. It's not that flavorful, it's quite mild, but it is nice. Let's talk about what is it like here in Japan? Or more specifically, how expensive is it to live here in Japan? And when I say here in Japan, I mean it depends on where you live. So I'm currently living in Tokyo, therefore let's talk about Tokyo, right? Can I live in Tokyo is what I'm going to try to answer for anyone watching. So one thing to consider before you move here is to get a visa you need to have a Japanese sponsor. That could be a friend, but realistically it's going to be a Japanese company who is going to say, we are willing to sponsor this person. So if you are going to live here for, you know, on the long term, then you basically need to have a Japanese company who is willing to hire you before you even get to Japan. And they tend to take care of most things, right? They'll take care of your visa, they'll take care of your housing. But let's say you are either not going that route, or you're just going on a extended vacation, basically. How much can you expect to be spending here? Now let's say, I mean obviously if you have cash then anything's possible, so let's keep it on a budget, right? Let's keep it on a tight budget. Let's say you want to live in Tokyo for 3 months. 3 months is usually the amount of time you can stay on a normal tourist visa. So how much is this going to cost me? You can look for hotels, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's too expensive, and also they tend to only allow you for 10 days at most. Even if you get a nice capsule hotel, that's maybe 1,000 or 2,000 yen a night, which that will be difficult to get such a nice price, but let's say you could get it. I mean, you would have a capsule, so you don't really have any space to bring your own belongings, which depends on what you're trying to do. Maybe that's okay for you, but even then it will be difficult to get 90 days consecutively in any capsule hotel. I would say you could maybe do it, and that would be realistically 2,000-3,000 yen per night. Maybe you can get lucky and get it for cheaper, but realistically 2,000-3,000 yen per night, so times 30, that would be 60,000 to 90,000 yen per month. So another option is a share house. Why would you want to have a share house? It's relatively affordable. I have heard 60,000 yen, which is within the 23 ku. I guess they are translated as cities, but that's a bit, let's not get into that. The 23 cities of Tokyo, you could get a share house for 60,000 per month, which isn't bad. You could also, for the same price, get a apartment or a mansion. The difference, by the way, is mansions, if I recall correctly, are taller than 2 stories, and if it's 2 stories or fewer, then it's an apartment. But anyway, you could get an apartment or mansion, a room basically, a private room, for 60,000. So why even go for a capsule hotel? Why even go for a share house, you might be wondering? Well, you can imagine that any landlord wants to have, they want to be sure that you can actually pay. So what do they want? They want a sponsor. So realistically, you need to have a Japanese friend, but most likely business, who will say, yes, we are paying this guy, he has cash. And then you can sign a contract. And there are a few sites, I'll link them in the comments in the description. There are a few sites where you can get short-term renting. English language sites also, because when you speak Japanese then it's a bit easier, but English language sites, there are a few. So you could get lucky and get a temporary apartment for 60,000 within the 23 cities, most likely on the outer parts. Don't be expecting a nice apartment in Shibuya or Shinjuku for 60,000. You could maybe get it, but realistically just don't expect it. So let's say you manage to, by one way or another, get your monthly rent for 60,000. Okay, that's fine. 60,000 yen. What is that? About $400 at this moment. I'm not too sure, but something about that. Even if it were 1-to-1, then it would be $600 per month. You could, if you have a job, then you could probably do that. You could remote work, even though it's not technically allowed. If you get the working holiday visa, then you're basically golden, you can do whatever you want. But if you're going on a normal tourist visa, then you're technically not allowed to do remote work, but they'll never find out, so I'm not giving legal advice here, but you know. So you're spending 60,000 per month. Now, what do you eat? You could go to the local supermarket, get yourself a bento for 500 yen. You could wait and see if you can get them on a discount, so maybe you can get it for 300-400 yen. Now you will probably need more than one bento per day, so let's say you eat 2 bento and a snack. So let's say that's 1000 yen if you get it at the normal price, and 600 to 800 yen if you get it on a discount. And if you're really lucky, then you can get it for maybe 50% off, usually at the end of the day. So maybe you could get it for 500 yen. That's one option, going for bento, 1000 to minimum of 500 yen plus whatever snacks you like. So maybe this one for example was 200 yen, but it's a bit more expensive. I don't know why. I think it's because it's a limited edition. You could certainly get some Japanese snacks, the same size, the same amount of calories. This one 404 calories. You could get hineriage, which are roasted wheat curls, 500 calories I'd say, in a bag of 100 yen. So that would be 1100 to maybe 600 yen per day. That would be one option. Another option would be to go to a place like Sukiya, or what are the other ones? Well, anyway, gyudon places. Gyudon is beef bowl, and they're quite good value. Matsuya, that's another one. They're quite good value for your money. You could probably get, if I recall correctly, the normal size beef bowl is 380 yen. Let's assume that's 500 calories. You would probably need, 3 at the very least, maybe 4. So that would be 1600 minus 1520 yen, if I'm correct. 1520 yen for one day. So it's a bit expensive, but you could go for the omori, which is the bigger helping of rice. I believe that one is 550 yen, and it's about 700-800 calories. So you could do the same thing with the bento, right? You get 2 beef bowls, that's 1100 yen. Plus, let's say the hineriage again, so that's, 1200 yen total. Now, you would need to drink also, but you could drink water. That's one option. If you don't want to drink water, then get yourself a nice package of ocha, green tea. Black tea tends to be maybe a bit more expensive, but if you get the loose leaves, so the dried leaves, then maybe 2000 yen for the package, but you could use the package easily for 3 months. Even if you drink a lot of tea, it will last you. So I'm not going to divide the 2000 yen by 90, you can do that on your own. So you've got yourself drinks, you've got yourself food, and by the way, if you go to basically any restaurant, and they will serve you free drinks. That would be either water or maybe green tea or mugicha, which is barley tea. It doesn't maybe sound that tasty, but I quite like it. It's comparable to coffee in flavor. That's another option, right? You could get mugicha, like a 2-liter bottle from the supermarket. That would probably be 100 yen. And I would say that you could drink, let's say 2 days, right? 1 liter per day, 2 days, so 50 yen per day. Another option is buy yourself a nice bag of rice. Rice is kind of expensive here, at the very least compared to what I've seen in Europe. It's 2 kilos for 1,000 yen. You could also get 5 kilos for about 2,000 yen. So 5 kilos is better value, and you could probably get, 10 kilos, 20 kilos. Depends on how much you want to budget, but let's say 5 kilos for 2,000 yen, right? So how long will that last you? I'll assume that you're a big boy, right? You probably eat 3 cups per day. If you're just having just rice, no bread, no snacks, 3 cups per day. What is that? About 300, let's say 300 grams of uncooked rice per day. You're obviously going to cook it, but 300 grams of uncooked rice per day will get you about 2,000 calories. Bit more, bit less, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, that means that 1 kilo of rice will get you through 3 days, about. Times 5, that's 5 days. And then you've got the last 100 grams per day left, so that would get you another, let's call it 2 days. So 2,000 yen divided by 7, that's your rice, that's your food for 1 week. 2,000 yen, and then you can get yourself some steak, some meat, some vegetables. You can basically make it as expensive as you want from there on, but 2,000 yen per week and you're surviving. Let's call it surviving. I still like it. It's still good. So what have we done so far, right? 60,000 yen plus 2,000 yen times 4, that's 8,000 yen. 68,000 yen on your budget per month. And realistically, you're going to want to get some meat, some vegetables, but we're living the struggle here. 68,000 yen. Now you probably want to go somewhere, right? You don't want to just sit at home all day. So let's assume that your apartment, your share house, your hotel isn't right in the center of Tokyo, right? It's not in one of the main tourist areas. Even then, you would still want to get the train, but you're probably going to want to get the train or the metro, something like that, public transport. How much would that be? It depends on how far you're going, but I would say 1 to 300 yen, so 100 to 300 yen to go one way, and then you have to go back, so that would be 200 to 600 yen. If you're going out every day, then that would be 200 to 600 yen per day, just in traveling. And that would add up, right? I'm not going to do the math, but that would add up. What might be more interesting is buying your own bicycle. You could easily get a bicycle for 10,000 yen, maybe less, a second-hand bicycle. And that would be cheaper. In the long run it would be cheaper, and then at the end you can sell your bicycle, get some of the money back, but you're saving the money anyway, so you've already won the budget. So let's say, you could also walk, but let's say you get the bicycle, and cycling here is okay, it's doable. So that would be 10,000 yen, divided by 3 months. right? It's not that expensive. And once you've traveled somewhere, what are you going to do? Well, you probably want to see some temples, right? You want to see maybe the Meiji Jingu, maybe you want to visit the Imperial Palace. Most of these things tend to be free. Certainly temples and jinja shrines, Shinto shrines, they tend to have free admission. Sometimes they ask for an admission fee, but most of the ones I can think of are free admission. So that's easy. You can see most of the famous temples, famous palace. You can see most of it for free. Let's say you want to visit Tokyo Tower, Tokyo Skytree. They're expensive. I don't remember exactly how expensive, but I can tell you they're quite expensive. I'm going to assume that you probably don't want to go there every week. You could, however, go to Yoyogi Park every week. Yoyogi Park is near Meiji Jingu, it's in Shibuya. And it's nice, certainly in summer, in spring, it's nice, you know. It's a bit of green, it's pretty, you can drink your alcohol there, you can have your picnic. It's a nice place to go. And it's free admission. Yeah, you probably want to go for a drink at some time. How much did this here cost me? This can, let me get the can. This here cost me 200 yen. Well, about. It may have been 210, maybe 220, but 200 yen. You could, however, get cheaper drinks. I'd say the cheapest you can go is, you know, alcohol-wise, is 100 yen per can. Now, obviously, you could go to a place like Don Quixote and, well, Don Quixote is this big store that you can basically get whatever you want there. And you could get a big bottle of Nihonshu. Nihonshu is sake, what we in English call sake. So you could get a big bottle of Nihonshu for maybe 2,000 yen, and that would probably last you for a week, 2 weeks, depending on how much you drink. But let's say that you want to go to a club or a bar. There are a few different options. There's something here called nomi hodai, which is all you can drink. It's a menu you can buy at, I would say, 2,000, maybe 3,000 yen for 1 to 2 hours of all you can drink. So, you know, if you do that once a week, then it's not so bad. You can get drunk there, and then for foreigners, you could probably go to a club and there will be someone walking around inviting foreigners in, and you can get a discount, or you can maybe get in for free. It's been a few years for me since I've actually gone to a club, but I would say the admission could be 1,000, maybe 2,000 yen. I believe women get in for less, maybe 500 yen, maybe free. I'm not too sure. And another thing to keep in mind is if you're going to a bar and it's not nomi hodai, then one thing you have to be aware of is that many bars have something that they call otoshi. Otoshi is a little bit of, it's like a little snack that you get, and it's like an entrance fee, right? You're not actually paying for the entry, but you're paying for the mandatory snack that you're given, which could be 500 yen. I've heard even as much as 2,000 yen, but I would say that's an exception. So even just entering a bar will probably cost you 500 yen, and then you want to have a drink. So let's say that you get this drink, maybe not necessarily this one, but you know, a normal beer with this kind of size. I would say you can expect to pay
400
yen here in Tokyo. Certainly in other places you could get it for cheaper, but in Tokyo I would say
400
sounds about right. Yeah, that could get quite expensive. So my recommendation is get yourself the Nomi Hodai, or you could go to a karaoke-kan. That's a karaoke building where you can get a private room for you and your friends. What would that be? They have cheaper options for 1 hour, 2 hours, but let's say you get the free time. That would be you can stay however long you like. Maybe 3,000 yen. I should go to karaoke more often and get you the correct price, but let's say 3,000 yen. So why would you go there? Well, it's fun, but also many karaoke places will allow you to bring your own food and drinks. So what you can do on that struggle life, right? You could get yourself some nice 100 yen drinks, maybe 10 of them, 10 per person, that's 1,000 yen. You could get yourself one of these, 2 of these per person, another 400 yen, so you've spent 1,400 yen, plus the 3,000 yen, which I believe is for the group, but I'm not quite sure there. So let's just be safe and say 3,000 yen per person. You've spent
4,400
for drinks and entertainment, because in the karaoke place you can sing and it's fun. So let's say you do that once a week. That would be
17,600
yen. Am I exposing myself by being bad at math here? Maybe that's quite possible. 70,000 to 80,000 yen per month. You could do it. The one thing that should be said is, if you do get an apartment or a mansion, then you need to pay for electricity, you need to pay for gas, you need to pay for water. So that might be another 10,000 yen, 20,000, depends on how much you use. But you could easily live here in Tokyo for 80,000 yen per month. Let's assume that you have to pay the electricity or whatever, 100,000 yen per month. You could easily do it. Which once again, 100,000 at this moment I believe is $600 to $700 US. So that's not so bad, is it? It's not as expensive as you might expect, and you're still doing stuff, right? You're going to the karaoke once a week, maybe you're going to the bar or the club, and you're going to a different temple every day if you want. There are plenty of temples here. You're going to the park, you're commuting. Well, you've bought the bicycle, right? If you don't buy the bicycle, then you're traveling on the train, and the price, it changes a bit, but you're having plenty of fun here. You're doing plenty of things. You're not just sitting at home eating dry rice and, I guess, watch the complimentary TV that you get. No, you're actually going out and doing things for, the budget option at the most 100,000 yen, so about $600-700 US. You can have fun here in Tokyo. You can live a normal life. And obviously if you are going to work here, then you will have your Japanese company and you'll be paid, so 100,000 yen a month, you should easily be able to make that, even if you just join the local Lawson or Family Mart, right? You work a part-time job there. I would say 1,000 yen per hour is the normal wage. So you're spending 100,000 yen per month. That would mean 100 hours of work. divided by 4, 25 hours per week. Let's say you're working every day, 5 hours per day. It's not that bad, is it? You're working in the convenience store. You don't need to speak much in the way of Japanese, because you just point them to the register, and there's this automatic money counting machine. Basically, all you need to do is stand there and scan the things. The screen on the machine will tell the customer how much they are being, how much they have to pay. It will give them all the options, right? I want to pay by card, I want to pay by cash, I want to pay by point cards. So all the options are there. The calculations are done automatically. Even if they're paying by cash, then they throw in the cash, and the machine automatically gives them the correct amount of change. So even if you don't speak any Japanese, I wouldn't recommend it, but even if you don't speak any Japanese, you can still get a job at the local convenience store, work 100 hours per month, get yourself that 100,000 yen, and you could survive. I mean, ideally you would maybe want to make 150, 200,000 yen, for the budget option, so that you can do something special. Maybe you can get a train to Osaka, to Kyoto. Maybe you can go to Fukushima, Chiba, Kanagawa. You can travel a bit more if you've got a bit more cash. But if you're fine with just being in Tokyo, which Tokyo has plenty to offer, then 100,000 yen per month, it's easily doable. And that's basically what I wanted to rant about today. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.